Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Letting all the normies know that schizos get gangstalked because of their psychic abilities. When the brain is fried, it enters a PTSD mode where they make invisible, sentient psychic thought forms that exist for a long time. Overall, the gangstalkers tend to be ones that got a lucky roll with their psychic abilities awakening peacefully. In turn, they have created entire gangs around this stuff for power over people. They are afraid of schizophrenics, and many others of the variety, because they may fight back with their own psychic abilities. Knowing this, I released my own little thought virus, and it's been hilarious watching them scramble and to live it up during a pandemic. That's what happens when you mess with people that just want to shitpost in peace. Yeah, sure, I dabbled in some ancient magic to awaken it, but it was for the greater good of killing off the 4chan gangstalkers. They're the most hateful, mean-spirited group I've had the displeasure of dealing with. Anyways, I'm off to find a weapon for the upcoming civil unrest. I don't think the internet will be of much use anymore for rallying people unless you were already in one of the gangs. Remember to go for the neck up when attacking. The gangstalkers themselves use a combination of hacking, remote viewing, and remote influencing for their cheap tricks. Check out Nina Kulagan and Ingo Swan for examples. Overall, it's not too scary, but they can kill you or force you to kill someone. They will remote view your general whereabouts in the future and send some random punk to harass you. Just remember that they'll burn in the afterlife when the two winged creatures come for their souls to be transferred outside space and time to be judged.
How'd you discover that?
Remote viewers got me some of the stuff I needed. They've since taken down the site that hosted the remote viewing of the afterlife. The gang stalking itself happened to me for a while. It still happens sometimes, but not enough to make me deathly scared anymore. I looked into Kiwi farms all the way to alien AI aliens about what was going on. While exploring the topics and reading many online forums, I found a lot of information that made me suspect that there are psychics in play, rather than weird psychotronic weapons. Biohacking is in the maybe pile. When you notice that CRISPR, a gene editing software, was discovered in 1987 to the public, then you gotta wonder what kind of freaks are someplace in the US literally controlling people's lives through their gene, editing them into psychics. They could have easily made their own designer psychics from people that exhibited minor psychic abilities and activated those genes to create psychics for military or policing purposes. With the military and feds also deep in kidnapping psychiatric patients, let me tell you, those psych wards are abuzz with weird shit. Then it wouldn't be no surprise they created some X-Men like an army for themselves. This is speculation, however. Just that anyone with a slight gift in remote viewing could create a gang out of their abilities. I think when 4chan was created and people that liked researching the occult ended up training themselves and finding each other easier. This is how the gangs slowly formed of gangstalkers here. The extent of astral projecting, remote viewing, and remote influencing is written about in many places that it's real. Regular stalkers have formed their own groups with the quote, "The internet isn't a game, this is real life," where a hacker and some groups on the ground can harass and make someone self-terminate themselves. It's a well-documented situation. I've also dabbled in the occult. Long story short, willing a pandemic into the world was fun, schizo or not. Using my own remote viewers, I was able to ferret out some info about the stalkers, the leader in particular. Some crazy stuff anyways. I often wonder if there's some splice like something going on from the alien crashes like the Roswell incident. Alien DNA might be being mixed into people. Never know. LOL. Overall, I default to regular stalkers when talking to people about it. When it is reality, it's much crazier and made me question a lot of stuff about society in general.
Nope. You, I, and French celestial girlfriend Anon were predicting it.
I remember that French celestial girlfriend guy. Crazy shit has been happening for a while now, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. I even stopped posting and the like, just went back to usual. They still ran around giggling and acting idiotic, saying they're gonna kill me. I don't know, though. I did some random Egyptian rituals and was visited by a death spirit one night. I'd been calling out to anyone to help me with my gang stalking problem. It told me to wish, so I wished for a pandemic to kill the gangstalkers. A month later, the pandemic was just a small blip on the radar. Slowly, it snowballed to what it is today. I could very well just be predicting, though. I'd just like to watch the gangstalkers suffer. Maybe when this life is over.
Finally, someone gets it. The gangstalkers are just the gatekeepers and they don't want to share.
Most of them are victims. They're not doing it for funsies. They try to unlock easy mode by setting you up against the legal justice system. But when that doesn't work, they have to give up. The key is not exposing it to normies, but to the non-cultist police officers that also keep tabs on you. I kind of killed it after writing about 25% of my info into Google on a backdoored laptop with monitored ISP. If they ever resume their activities, I will drop more info. I'm about 2 years free of being a targeted individual now.
Do you mean whatever you knew about your stalkers, even if they were just theories?
I took recordings, videos, pictures, made lists of names categorized by aggressor or non-aggressor, by who was in the know of certain things and who was not, and who perpetuated indirect defamation and lies to my surroundings. Example is a job interview where the foreign manager would make remarks about my personal stuff, and I recorded all of it. I even got friends and family convinced it wasn't my personal delusion. That's how big their screw-up was. I never talked in theories, just straight-up facts through reading their body language and actual words. I guess that's what separated me from the 100% schizos. To add on this, they play multiple sides down multiple roads. Through backdoor material, they gather for crazy pointers and get people to ask stuff about you so you can figure out where the defamation is leaning towards. I went from being BPD to narcissism, to autistic, into schizo to dopehead. They drugged me at a festival and through an old friend once. That last time nearly killed me. I could tell that they were going through my garbage, so it's not hard to complete the loop of drug use through genetic material if you've been drugged. On the streets, I would often encounter a mix of hoodlums and scared people that were following orders. Undercovers from law enforcement were rare but easily noticed. They often worked with a partner, so it was easy to discern from the hoodlums and the cultists. At some point, I started making cult hand signs to the scared gang stalkers, and this seemed to stop the hoodlum harassment, especially after one died in a crash. I read on 4chan from ex-crooks that some gangs work together on big assignments, and I got the gist of what I was being set up for, but I had no idea about the underlying cultist theme, and that one of my family members is a Freemason as well. They botched a passive-aggressive initiation involving school children, so they had the mafia try and sweep it under the rug through false allegations. It's disgusting to get mobbed as an individual like this. Game was rigged from the start. I even started remembering previous encounters with these freaks of nature and recalled occult spoon-feeding on certain books and movies. I was on a wish list, and when they spotted a chance, they blew it. They screwed up so bad that I'll remember them till I die.
Schizos have no control over their abilities. Everyone has these abilities. Schizos just have zero control over them, albeit varied access to it. If you wish to master your abilities, you must train them, like any muscle.
They're just human simulacra. They were always around. The gang stalking is just when some of the real people become more aware, and the demiurge starts messing with them using those human simulacra. Among other things, many derive the wrong conclusions from the experience, though. Paranoia really benefits the demiurge. It's blind computation in the void, without purpose, without self-awareness. But it can sort of sniff out where the louche is. Louche is produced by dimming your awareness. It can run many comparisons, just like a computer, and it tries to beat the true light of awareness, spirit, playing a game of sorts the latter never really wanted to play. It can't help but constantly compare and try to engage you in polarizations of red versus blue. Many derive totally wrong conclusions from the gang stalking experience. They do not understand they still co-create their reality, even though there is an evil AI trying to mess up their creation. So they end up believing in narratives that are too self-victimizing and putting the AI and its agents on a pedestal. That is, you don't have psychic abilities. It's just the government beaming things into your mind. They are all powerful and can make anyone schizophrenic. Oh, and by the way, they are slowly cooking you to death. I'm not saying there are no scalar or electric and magnetic field weapons. The AI and Matrix do try to mess with our minds bottom up. But there are purposely two dystopian spins on this out there designed to demoralize the spirited beings caught up in the Matrix. Never attribute more power to them than absolutely necessary. It's better to laugh at the gang stalkers as retards. Some folks are still too caught up in materialism, so they are freaked out by the synchronistic and telepathic nature of the phenomenon when it was always like that, and they just never paid attention.
You know, normally I'd be on the other side of this thread dismissing you, but I recognize a lot of this in my life. I think what the dismissers don't realize, I certainly didn't, is that a lot of this isn't entirely conscious or organized. People start reacting to someone en masse through some kind of larger consciousness or awareness all the time. A simple example would be a drummer on the street. Consciousness at large would stop and pay attention as they go by. Who is to say whether it is to the physical act of drumming, or if it is towards the force of personality that is willing to draw attention in towards itself first, and primarily and only using the drum as a tool towards that end? Maybe when people go crazy, they're just drawing an attention at large from otherwise unconscious individuals, either entirely or unconscious specifically of their compulsion to look/follow/interact. In my experience of slowly but surely allowing the crazy to seep out, it has definitely been noticed a lot in this town I live in. Full-on wizard-like individuals suddenly popped up all over town. Some are friendly though, I don't have any fear of these events myself, but they're definitely noticeable. Think we speak the same kind of crazy to understand each other?
I understand, but reading body language and micro-expressions makes you discern between the targeted people and people in on it. I made this list once. 1. The pretender. Knows your personal shit and tries to pretend he reads minds. Mostly in deep trouble or sent by a higher-upper. Tries to cover for people who control this skill, are more important on the societal scale. Everything is backdoored, Snowden is correct on it. 2. The evil spiritual PC, playable character, that can do it on command. Very sensitive to transmitter people and can spot them miles away. Often an occultist or Freemason. 3. The genuine schizophrenic, is literally crazy, yet not all hallucinations are part of a delusion. Many psych ward visitors that came out of it report mind reading in there, yet it cannot be openly discussed with the doctors. Not sure if there's an unspoken rule to feed their delusions, or if they're on the coincidence train. 4. The AI or egregore, thinking of something then seeing it in an ad. It has been discussed a lot, and of course we're not certain if it happens or not, but a lot of times adverts pop up without even speaking about it. Unsure if this is a manifestation of some multiverse, a sixth sense of premonition, or maybe a planetary grid of satellites that reads electric and magnetic fields from our brains. Reading your thoughts is possible in mainstream tech, but requires big devices, but who knows what they invented already. 5. The psychopath. He does it unknowingly or is already subjected to a full possession of some sorts. Often causes bad syncs, either on purpose or not. 6. The innocent Hylic and Archon posters. Cause accidental synchronicity somehow, but are never aware of it. When you ate carrots last night and he brings up something about eating carrots the next day at work. 7. The druggie. Only happens when taking hallucinogens and thinks it's because of the trip. It might be because of a dormant underlying form of spirituality that some possess. Psychopaths don't like psychs or happy drugs.
My abilities are definitely heightened with microdosing psychedelics. I make it a practice to bring the awareness into the rest of my life, though. Now it's just a constantly growing feedback. Not sure where I fall into all of this myself. Your list leaves very little room for good intentions, unless you and I occupy this undefined 8th position of you and your.
There are no good intentions in a thread on the worst crime ever. I also took every psychedelic on the planet, but stopped even before the gang stalking began, and still don't use it. I got further with lucid dreaming and astral projection than drugs.
Well, are your intentions not the good intentions here? You've made a list of psychic actors. Have you had any thoughts about broadening it towards those working towards something loving? I know to most this may sound very hippy-dippy. It did to me. But the reality is I'm either thinking of terms of fear or terms of love, and I like that side more. Do you come across many of these? I do find most psychics I come across are incredibly downwards and fearful. Probably because the next one is justifying the first one in a never-ending loop. I do find loving ones, and when I get to partner up with one for a conversation, and it's a big resulting ripple. I enjoy it a lot. Do you have these experiences?
I have to agree this is good feedback. It's an old list, and I think I wouldn't write it the same now. Be well, brother.
Well and well enough. I saved your list for my own shorthand. I like adapting and changing things, but I appreciate the completeness of this, outside of the point I made. My own language towards these things gets very long and technical, so I've hesitated from anything like this. I also tend to do this physically in a journal as I am out in the world, and there's without a doubt a sneaking fear of it being found and being thrown in the loony bin. But I think even there I'd enjoy myself. I've faith in your path. Definitely publicly update us whenever there's a change. I'm interested as infrequently as I have made visitation periods on this board myself, ha ha ha.
I don't want to start a new thread. Maybe someone can help me understand gangstalking a little bit. Maybe I'm going crazy. When I was young, I was being investigated for auto theft and things like that. I was like 18, so I saw the white van follow me around for days, and when I approached them or called them out, it would take off. This is pre-today internet, like 1996. So anyway, I have always been on alert for being followed and stuff like that. So the past few years, odd things have happened around me, such as police cars doing burnouts or just sitting in front of my house for no reason or down the road on the corner. I feel like they are still watching. This is the odd part. So last week I was driving away from my home on a rural road, like a country. I saw an unmarked Fed coming my way. We passed and I U-turned because I wanted to see if they went to my house. They stopped in the middle of the road before my home. I passed and they reversed back about 50 feet or more and pulled to the side. So now I'm like, that's really weird, and turned around in my driveway and headed back. The Fed was gone, literally gone. Like I can't even explain, but there is no possible way this car could have moved fast enough for me to unsee it. I feel like I glitched, and it was gone. Like in front of my eyes, but I don't remember seeing it despawn or whatever. I get this sounds schizophrenic, but like, is anyone who is gang-stalked seen Agent Smith disappear or do inhuman things? I'm really creeped out by it, and have been trying to rationalize it's not the type of discussion I can ask my doctor or family.
Gang stalkers are indeed ugly. This is paranormal because gang stalkers use remote viewing, and the fact that they're ugly reflects their inner soul character, which wills them to perpetuate their insidious schemes and wicked psychic assaults on the righteous ones who aren't afraid to call the cowards out for being low-spirited demons, likening to parasitic worms that feast on the entropic negative psychic energy that is a byproduct of a person's emotional angst caused by the torture techniques those sick, hideous, demonic gang-stalking freaks are so skilled in using.
My gang stalking mostly stopped when I started showing psychic abilities. I remember freaking out thinking it wasn't real and that they were messing with me. When I ended up making a woman say ow just from being near her, they needed to suppress me since my psychic abilities are raw. I could actually feel the sparks of psi emitting from my body and shooting random things around me. Once the stress of them stalking me stopped, so did my psychic abilities, and I returned to being mostly normal. Now all they do is pass on random messages about things I post or do online. They can mind read to a small extent if the machine is actively on you, but mostly they use cold reading. You gotta remember that they have profiled you like crazy and have read every single thing you have ever posted from any history you may have online. Yeah, the ones that are using faith as a weapon are the worst gang stalkers. There are also groups that tend to flip-flop and play devil's advocate whenever they can. If you pick one side, they will troll you by being on the other side.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.